at all.
Okay.
Good morning,
Okay.
everyone. Let's get
Uh,
going.
okay. Let me just introduce you, and we can begin.
Okay, I'm just gonna put my camera on for a few minutes so that you can see who I am. Good morning, everyone.
Okay. Good morning again. So my name is Lawrence again from the RCD unit at the postgraduate school. I'll be the moderator for today's workshop. I'd like to start off by thanking those that are here to attend this section, and most importantly, our facilitator today, Dr. Maharaj, for giving this presentation. So before I begin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping rules. Obviously, if I stated that the session will be recorded and all the material will be posted on our model communities. And for the attendees that are here, or rather the attendees, if you have any question, feel free to type them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and I can indicate to the presenter so that we may address the question. And I'll also send a feedback survey in the chat session. Please fill that in so that we may get insight on whether this workshop was useful and how we can improve. So before I begin, I'd like to just introduce our facilitator today, Dr. Rishma Maharaj, is a senior lecturer in the Department of Graphic Design at the Faculty of Arts, Design and Architecture at the University of Johannesburg. She completed a PhD in visual arts. She has a master's in visual arts. Dr. Maharaj's research interests are in the field of critical and cultural theories, identity theory, visual art, and research methodologies. Dr. Maharaj is currently exploring research and practice-led research, orthography and aesthetics, and alternative theories, Indian, African, Islamic as part of their cultural identities. She has also published in reputable journals and has participated in national and international conferences. Dr. Maharaj has also been part of the academia for the past 27 years in the visual art and graphic design department. So without further ado, Dr. Maharaj, you may begin the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for my bad frog voice. All right, so good morning, everyone, and I'd like to thank the Research Cap- Capacity Development Center for allowing me the opportunity to actually present the components of a research proposal to you. Um, because this is a very small group, um, please feel free to integrate or ask the questions or anything that you'd like to, because we can make this a more fruitful and more engaging. And I can also then assist you with specific requests that you have, or anything that you would like to find out about research proposal writing. And so it would be my pleasure to assist you in whichever way possible. I'm going to switch the camera off, sorry, and share the presentation. Um, and while I do that, if you don't mind introducing yourself so that I know which departments you are from, it would make the workshop a little bit more interesting. Thank you. Please just let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? I just need confirmation if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen, Doc. Thank you.
All right, so let's get into this. Um, so when you're actually embarking on your research, whether it's master's or PhD, there's always this reflection that needs to take place. And the first questions we need to ask ourselves is, what do you want from this master's or PhD proposal, or the degree itself? Um, and what will you get from it? So these are the questions that I always ask, or anyone embarking on research, or that should be asking What is exciting about this goal that you're actually doing? Why is it necessary to? How will you measure your results? What does success look like, and what is the big picture? And for me, these questions are imperative when you actually begin the process, because sometimes when we're doing research, going down the line, we either get frustrated, uh, we feel like this is not what we want to do. Um, Sometimes the research becomes overwhelming, and life happens. So before we embark on research, we need to be really, really clear on what we want, why we're doing it, and what do we want to achieve from it. Is it something personal? Is it professional? So what exactly it is this? So if you don't mind just sharing with me quickly, because we're not a very big group, um, what do you want from research? What do you want from this degree? And why is it even relevant? Anyone like to share?
So we have Nawal who introduced themselves in the chat box. He said Nawal packed a pre-registered master's in industrial design.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, all right. Okay, so why do you want to actually do? Why do you want to do this the masters? Is it something that you're carrying forth from your honors? Um, why do you actually want to engage with us? Is this that you would like to get into academia, maybe? Um, and what is exciting about this goal that you want to achieve? So if you can um, just unmute and speak to us, if no judgment. Do the participants have can the participants engage with the workshop, Lawrence?
Yes, they can engage in the workshop. So they're actually typing. So some probably they might, be mic shy. So if they are, they do type in the chat box, then I can just present the answer to you.
Please do not be mic shy. You know, this
So
is
yeah.
I always say that this first is like your 3 minute speed dating. If you have to meet anybody and they ask you, what is your master's about? Why are you doing this? What is your goal? What do you want to achieve from it? What is this big picture? Or what do you want to move on to after you actually do this master's or PhD? So this is your actual 3 minute speed dating with your masters. Um, I um, I used to practice on my children. Um, so I used to, you know, they used to ask me, so mom, exactly what is this research of yours about? And I had to explain it to them very, very quickly, but in a very simple way that they would be able to understand. Because sometimes we write, we do research, which becomes a document that gets filed somewhere in a library, and people cite it when they can. Now that it's electronic, before it used to be going to the library and actually getting a book or your master's thesis or your PhD thesis, and you know, making it simple for everybody to understand. That is what makes research interesting, exciting, but difficult, right? So let's get on. Right. When you're actually crafting your title, remember your title is something that is going to excite people. It's going to make you feel like, okay, you know what? I want to read this. And sometimes when you read journal articles or even thesis, you see that it has a very exciting heading, and then as you read through it, it becomes a bit something that you're not really interested in. But then we have a title that's very, very boring, and then the information there is very interesting. But the way you should actually write your title is matching what your research is going to engage. So it must be well crafted. It should actually capture the essence of what you're doing. It must engage the reader. You're going to reflect on problems also provided. So you're going to basically glimpse into what you're doing. needs to be like catchy and captivating and never more than 12 to 14 words. Um, a lot of students make the mistake of actually having the research question as the title. Do not do that. That is actually just a reference to what the study is going to be engaging for. So I've just put three examples here. Beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. So if you see an inquiry into ethics in design, so lies. So you can make your title as catchy as you want it to be. The other one is all these are my topics actually. One is rasa and resilience. Where to from here? Where I speak of alternative theories and resilience and the form of identity. Not at my inweave, my autoethnographic inquiry into practice. So where I speak about my actual art making process, and many of the industrial people, even architecture, even multimedia students look into um, practice-led research, practice-based research, practice as research. So those are the methods that we will look into further going down into the program. Um, and also when you're writing your actual title, it should never be something like an investigation of. That's like very deadwood, you know. You need to change that. You need to make it more exciting. Um, have any of you thought of a title that you would like to work with in what you're doing at the moment that you'd like to share? A proposed title?
So one student typed, sorry, Doc, in the chat session. Let me just read out what they said. They said, my goal is to be more engaged in academia. Also, I have a background in psychology and anthropology. I'm hoping to blend my social sciences background with the industrial design discipline. And they're saying, apologies, I'm currently at work. I'm unable to unmute.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay. Have they thought about a working title? Any working titles that people are working with or have? No one? All right. So, moving on from the title, we go to um, how we actually get the title going. Make sure that you use something which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and which is time bound. So, it's called the SMART acronym, and it also helps you to focus on exactly what you're trying to do and what you're trying to put out there. So sometimes, you know, you get these very, very long, convoluted titles and you get lost between the words. Always make it short and sweet. So use the SMART acronym to actually get your topic going and also allowing you to focus on exactly what you're doing and what you want to achieve in this time. Um, so this is a very, very easy way of actually looking at how you're going to work through your title. Um, it depends also on what you're trying to do. So, for example, this the student who's trying to use anthropology, psychology in industrial design. I don't actually know where the focus is, but you know, making something that is very, very interesting. For example, I'm working with the industrial design department as well, and we're trying to develop a bottle crusher for the the waste pickers in Johannesburg, and we're looking at sustainability. We're looking at why the psychology of actually having this so that it would make their life easier. There's health implications. There's um, a whole lot of other things that go into you know, designing this bottle crusher, but also making it sustainable for the environment, because currently there isn't anything available to them for them to actually um, work or work within the parameters of for safety reasons, right? Um, and this has a negative impact on them, where they feel like they don't have the right equipment to do the job that they need to do. So what you can also look at it from a psychological point of view in that sense. So when you're actually looking at your title, you also have your keywords. Now the keywords will directly um, relate to your topic. And these keywords actually come after your abstract, and the abstract is written after you complete your entire dissertation. But what keywords actually do at the beginning of your proposal writing is that it allows you to capture important words that you need to look at in terms of how you want your thesis or your proposal to flow. And by inserting these keywords, you'll find the references to work relating to your specific study. And and this would help you to get the themes going within the actual proposal, and eventually the study. So I always tell people, continuing from your little speed dating process of telling people what your master's or PhD is about, you need to write your proposal in the format of a little fairy tale of no more than 100 words, like, once upon a time, researchers believed that, but I think that maybe. So I'm going to, and I hope to find, which will change the way in which we. So, in an example that I've put here, I've said once upon a time, researchers believed that interactive teaching and learning could only be achieved face to face, but I think that could also use cheap, available technology to promote interactivity. So, I'm going to create a class WhatsApp group to run alongside my real classes and analyze the messages. And I have hope to find some levels of activity that will change the way we promote interactive teaching and learning in the future. This I've actually taken from Dr. Johannes Grenier, who I've done a workshop with when I started my research proposal writing many years ago. And I found this to be very, very interesting, because as you actually write this up, you engage with your own thoughts, and people remember a story much more than they would read something or remember something that is more academic initially, right? So when you're actually writing this up, um, make it the story, make it this narrative that you can identify with, that you can place yourself in, or place yourself in the context of your research. Okay, so the research is actually you, and you are your research. And this is something that we tend to become very precious about sometimes. And sometimes we need to let go of this process, because um, we need to create this symbiotic or some symbiotic balance between the research and the researcher. Okay. So, in your introduction, you'll actually be setting the stage for what you need to do. You'll have your research problem, you're going to do the background of your issues that you're going to be looking at. You will be highlighting the significance and the relevance of your study. Um, your introduction should actually present a research question or a hypothesis, depending on what you want to you're looking at, and explaining exactly why is it important and how you want to address this. In your actual introduction, you also have bits of your literature review, where you can explain, define the different terms, look at the technologies you're probably using, um, establish the existing knowledge, and identify the gaps that the research is going to be looking at. And also, you're going to have what are the aims of the proposed studies, this proposed study, and what it wishes to fulfill. Now, in your introduction, it depends on um, whether you're doing just a thesis, or you're doing practice and a thesis. So Um, some people require, or some departments or some faculties require that the introduction is very, very um, focused, and it's very, it has all the elements of actually the conclusion as well. First introducing everything, and then obviously the conclusion, which will also talk about the entire thesis. So the introduction and the conclusion are almost married, where one does one is the stepping in and one is the stepping out. So in the stepping in of the thesis, you going to be looking at how the different terminologies are going to be explained. Some introductions also have your brief chapter introductions. It just depends on what the requirements are. And that is always depending on your supervisor and the area of research, or your topic, or the faculty or the departments that you're actually working with. So your introduction has everything that you want the map to look like. So your research journey or your proposal is like this little GPS that you're going to be looking into and going to pinpoint all the areas before you reach your final destination. Right. Any questions? Any questions? Can I move on?
No questions at the moment. I think we may proceed. Doc, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Okay.
Right, so now we come to the literature review. So now the literature review is a section that provides your in-depth analysis of the existing body of knowledge relating to your research problem. And a lot of what I'm saying is something that you've already covered on an honors level, because your honors report, your honors dissertation probably had or has to have all these elements in it. So all I'm doing now is actually recapping what you already know, right? Um, so your literature review also has to demonstrate your understanding of the topic and highlight the gaps in the current literature, which has to be well executed. It needs to justify this proposal is important, why the research is important, and it would obviously provide a theoretical foundations for the study. So it also helps you to ensure that you're not reinventing the wheel, but it gives you credits to those that have been laid the groundwork for your research in the literature. It also demonstrates your knowledge of the research problem and your understanding of the theoretical research issues related to your questions. And what the literature also does, it shows you the ability to critically evaluate and relevant literature. It also indicates your ability to integrate and synthesize the existing literature that you have. And it obviously provides new insights to develop new models of conceptual frameworks for your research. It looks at underlying theories. Um, it's also a point of departure uh, that you can use to discuss um, your research. So here you'll be given clear impressions of what you want to do, down to the theoretical roots, to have a good knowledge. Um, and this is about exploiting, analyzing, and actually debating what you come across in the literature. So remember that your research has to be theoretically driven. So the theory has to enlighten your research questions, and the whole process is about defining concepts and deriving your research hypothesis, or your problem statement, that and the aims that you're actually going to be looking at through the research. And I'm not too sure if you know of all the tools that people use when doing the literature review. Um, in besides the Google Scholar, you use connected papers, you use Skyspace. So there's lots of other tools that people are using to get to the literature. And that also makes literature more focused. What you can also do is create a literature map. So when you're creating your literature map, this particular map would you would look at um, if it's a proposal that you expanding on from your honors, or even if it's new material, um, the keywords will help you look for the literature. That is how you start creating your map. Towards the end of this presentation, let me just I have a table here which I found to be extremely useful. It's adapted from the Wits Education Department, and I find this table to be very, very important when students are actually embarking on this proposal, which looks at all the articles. So if you are required to have 30 journal articles or books that you're looking at. But this is a good way of actually tabulating everything down as you're writing or reading the different literature in the sections. So um, the way I have it here is to provide your full and accurate reference. When you look at the literature, you can look at the research questions and the focus of the particular article. You look at the theory and the concepts behind it. Obviously, you look at the paradigms and the world views. You look at the approach to the inquiry and the methodology. So you'll be taking all these all the articles and actually tabulating the information as required within the different um, areas of this particular table. At the end, you see I have the notes on usefulness to your own study to guide your writing. Once you put those notes down, so it's basically creating a summary of the actual um, article that you're looking at. Sometimes this may look like it's a bit laborious, but when you're actually looking or writing up your methodology section, for example, you have that information there. You can quickly say, um, Gray and Mullins looks at practice-led research in this way, or Denson and Lincoln looks at practice as research in this way. The research techniques that they use or they speak about is used for ethno, ethnography or autoethnography, or they're looking at metasynthesis or the case studies, or so you can quickly look up, and this particular table will allow you to quickly source the information when you're actually speaking to your supervisors. And the supervisor also needs to find out, like, where did you get this information from and how did you come up with it, and how is your how did you integrate this idea into what you're trying to do. You have a quick reference to this. Yes, there is other software available, but those are mainly referencing software. But what this table does is that it gives you more in-depth um, reference to what you're actually doing. Okay, so if you see, this table also breaks up the different areas that you're going to be looking at in the research. Okay, and also makes you or assists you in doing the different collaboration comparative studies. Sorry. Okay, so um, going back to the the literature review. So all this information is going to be made available to you. So use these little tools. Yes, they seem, as I said, laborious to first deal with, but they just make writing so much easier, so much simpler, and quicker. Right. So we go to the theoretical framework, something that you need to also include in your proposal. Um, So, a theoretical framework comprises of the theories expressed by experts in the field, in which you need to plan to research, and which draws upon to provide a theoretical coat hanger for your data analysis and your interpretation of your results. So, basically, it's there to house the information, the theory uh, of what you're going to use to actually explain the work that you're going to be working with. Your theoretical framework is also a structure that summarizes concepts and theories, which develop from previously tested knowledge. And you also get this from your literature um, to help you synthesize the theoretical backgrounds, the basis for your data analysis, and of course, the interpretation of the meaning contained in your research data. So, according to Swanson, who says that the theoretical framework is the structure that can hold or support a theory of a research study. And the theoretical framework for your research proposal or thesis is not a summary of your own thoughts about your research, but rather is the synthesis of the thoughts of the giants in the field of your research. And they relate to your proposed research or thesis as you understand those theories and how it will be used, how you use those theories to understand your data. Um, so what the theoretical framework does also is speaks to how you're going to actually use this GPS to get to the end. How or what information is going to support what you're trying to do. Okay, so the theoretical framework and the theories that engaged in all studies is basically there to make sure that um, your information is not baseless. Okay, it has rigor, it has grounding, and it's it's there to make sure that your information is well encapsulated to get the information across. Um, Sometimes when you are confused about a particular theory or the theoretical framework, um, always engage with your supervisor. But when you try and extrapolate it and make it more engaging, um, it will also help you to maneuver your way through some of the information to get to your end result. Um, right, so any questions around that, your theoretical framework? Are we good?
I think they're good because there is no question in the chat box and there's no hand raised. Yeah, they just said this is sharp. Yeah, they put in the
Um,
thumbs up. I think you can proceed.
okay, so your problem statement. In your research problem, you need to state in one or two so your sentences what the problem you're going to actually investigate. To not personalize the problem, for example, I or me or we or whatever, but rather report from an authentic source which identifies the problem. It also convinces your reader that your proposed research will make a significant and substantial contribution to literature, resolving an important theoretical issue, or filling a major gap in the literature in your research. So it's um, just need to be very, very succinct about it. What is the problem? And the aim is the why. Okay, so the problem may be how sustainability might be used in um, addressing psychological needs of um, what waste pickers in creating more valuable or creating more or developing or manufacturing a machine that is placed in a work friendly environment, or it just depends on how you can actually frame this topic. So it will you get your research problem, and you need to say how you're going to solve it. um, this is my problem, the research, the sustainability, psychological development, um, so these the words that you're going to be using would actually frame your research problem. Okay. And what are you hoping to achieve that um, achieve from the process of actually developing something or integrating something. Okay. So when we go now to the aims and objectives, remember the big six when you're writing all of this is the who, the what, the why, the when, the where, and the so what. Because it's always the so what that engages the entire process to say, okay, I'm doing all of this, so what am I going to achieve from this? Okay, so what is your specific goal? Is it your objectives when writing these goals need to be clear, they need to be measurable, they need to be aligned. Within your research question, you need to help the direct process and guide the data collection and analysis. It needs to enhance the focus and the coherence of the research proposal. So the aims and objectives always need to be very, very um, clear. Um, the purpose of the study should be encapsulating the title of your research. um, you can also they have to put your theoretical and specific research objectives that you're formulating in your research, and how is it going to actually be achieved. So with the research question, you have your main research question, you have your main objective, you have your sub research question, and you have your sub question, sub question and your sub objectives. And normally you should have your main research question and maybe three sub-questions with objectives. This will also help you focus the structure of the proposal. Um, Going on to the next aspect is your methodology. Now, I've just put this little tree there, and when you're actually writing up the methodology, you're first obviously looking at the ontology of how the world is viewed. You look at your epistemology, you look at your methodology, and then of course your methods. Um, so the guiding principle for writing your methods or design section is that it should contain sufficient information for the reader to determine whether the methodology is sound. In this section, you identify the methodology that underpins your research and gives you the rationale for your approach. You may need to identify the research paradigm and epistemologies that underpin your research. And a paradigm is a comprehensive belief system or the worldview or the framework in which which is going to be guiding your research, which is obviously we have your quantitative, your qualitative, and of course mixed methods research. Um, this is also based on the research objectives, um, whether it's, as I said, practice as research, research as practice, or design as practice, or whichever methodology you choose. Um, and then sometimes you triangulate it where you use quantitative and qualitative data. And this is when you can also either use triangulation or mixed methods. Um, but however this is, it needs to be referenced or discussed with reference and how your data will actually be analyzed and reported. Um, but be careful to choose a method that will provide an answer to your research question. Do not choose a method just because it is convenient or you are interested in using it. The method section typically, you know, needs to um, ensure that it creates a deeper understanding about what it's all about. Is your research methodology using a systematic approach, um, and so forth? So you need to make sure that you need to state exactly why, for example, a qualitative approach is used, what kind of design you're choosing and why you're choosing it. Um, who are the participants that you're going to use, and what will take part in your study, or who will take part in your study, or what kind of sampling procedures you're going to use, what are the instruments you're going to use, what kind is it going to be questionnaires, surveys, um, exactly what are you going to, in terms of uh, observation, focus group, uh, and your, of course, then the data analysis method, which could be coding, which could be statistics, narrative or content analysis. Um, so all of these instruments and procedures, you need to explain why you're using it, why you're choosing it. Is it valid? Is it reliable? How are you going to use this to actually, how are you going to use this to carry out your study? What activities are going to be involved? How long does it take? Are you going to do field work? Um, and for all of this, you need to always justify why you're doing this, right? Um, and sometimes we do get confused between methods and methodologies, um, but always clarify this with your supervisors, because sometimes when people are doing content analysis or visual analysis, a lot of the theories fall between methods and a methodology. Okay, so always make sure that this is clearly stated. Now, when you're even doing when you're looking at your different methodologies, you're gonna, whether you use ethnography or autoethnography or case study or literature analysis or phenomenology, make sure that it's clearly stated and why you're actually doing it. Always substantiate your the purpose of including any type of method or methodology in the process of your writing. So I just put a little table here in terms of what is quantitative research and qualitative research, and how they actually, the differences and the similarities within that um, paradigm. So I don't know how many people are actually doing qualitative research, or how many people are actually engaging in quantitative research. Just any indication is how many people are doing quantitative or qualitative? Is anyone doing quantitative research, or is the focus more on qualitative research for this particular group? All right. Um, so I have put the table here, and which gives you the comparison between the quantitative and qualitative research. The main thing with the quantitative research is that the conceptual framework um, has greater emphasis on, whereas qualitative research obviously will look at the research questions, your data analysis, um, but the conceptual framework within qualitative design is where the focus is on the participants and the issues around the information that was gathered through the interpretation of your results. And obviously, what the quantitative people do is they look at the results and then they revisit the conceptual framework to say, yes, does this work or does this not work? Okay, so the hypothesis. And with the qualitative research, people obviously would get a different set of data, or it actually, excuse me, answers the research question um, through the different theories. So another table that I have here is just a quick um, look at the different the methods, whether it's phenomenology, ethnography, narrative inquiry, case study, or grounded theory. And this actually gives you quite a clear indication of the different issues that people can engage with, or what section or what would best suit their particular study, and how they would actually look at the purpose of it, the discipline, whether it's multidisciplinary, whether it's sociology. Obviously, narrative inquiry looks at human storytelling. Um, and sometimes you can even use two. You can use phenomenology and narrative inquiry. You can use phenomenology and um, case study. Um, and then obviously the data collection and analysis that you would be using for your particular study would be different, right? And of course, the research report would then have all the include all the patterns, your connections, your insights, how is it synthesized, and so if I just quickly look at phenomenology, for example, you're looking at individuals' experience of a phenomena, and this is something that can also be integrated into the person using or do person in industrial design who's going to be looking at psychology. Um, and case study as well, actually. Um, so it just depends on where the actual niche or the actual study is getting rooted in. Obviously, the discipline of phenomenology is philosophy. The data collection and analysis is the interview process, the significant statements that capture the essence of participants' perceptions and experiences. Um, and of course, the research report will be the rich narrative allowing for vicariously the speaking of the experience of the phenomena through the eyes of the participants. So just depending on how or where you situate the study, that is how you would write it up. So this is just uh, a table that helps a lot of my students decide exactly where they want to place this. Obviously, there are more theories, but these are what I call the big five. Okay, in
Sorry,
qualitative
sir.
research. Yes,
So
yes.
is there like a specific number of theories that you can use, or it depends on your research, or just the discipline that you're in? Is there a certain particular number that you need to use in terms of theories?
No, there is no particular number. So, for example, you might just use one theory. As long as it speaks to the research and you are able to justify why you're using that particular theory to support your study. So, for example, um, I looked at the theory of rasa, which is an Indian aesthetic theory in explaining how um, I view my artwork. So, using emotions, right? So, how do
Yeah.
I interpret emotions and how do I engage the rasa theory to explain how I work through the making process? So, I only used one theory.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, bro. Thank you,
Um,
Doctor.
yeah, so just say if I'm doing visual analysis or content analysis, I can use visual rhetoric theory. I just need to use one. I don't need to use more. Or I can say, yes, I'm using visual rhetoric theory, but I'm looking at it from a postmodernist perspective.
Okay. Perfect. Understood.
So it just depends where you want to situate the research or what is the main focus.
Okay. Just making it relevant to the research.
Yes, must make
Oh,
it relevant to the research. So if I'm doing, I'm just going to quickly speak about one of my master students, where she is looking at the war between Palestine and Israel, and she's looking at X and how she's interpreting the information that has been put out there from a certain period of time, and how Israel actually um, uses the concept of Hasbara. So she is doing a visual analysis of the images and the content from there, but she's looking at it from a postmodernist point of view. Um, Another person is doing a semiotic analysis of that using case study. So it just depends where you're actually situating the research. All we I don't know all the theories. I'm learning. It's always a learning process, and I don't think anybody knows all the theories. Um, but it's through the readings and the literature that we find what best fits what we're trying to do. It's like a glove, which is going to
Okay.
be, sorry.
Okay. Thank you, bro.
Okay, thanks. All right, so let me move on because I see I have half an hour left and I have about to get through. All right. So we also look at another section in the proposal, which is trustworthiness, reliability, and validity. And how will reliability be established? What methods will be used? So obviously it's with the literature, depending on whether it's qualitative or quantitative. Um, and then obviously, are there any, will there be any pre-tests or pilot studies? If so, how are you going to do this? Where are you going to situate this pilot study? Um, how are you going to relate to this? Where's the pre-testing process and the pilot study situated in the research? What information you're going to get from there? Has anybody else done this? Um, uh, Anyone reputable? Let me put it that way. So, is it an academic study? Because a lot of information that is out there at the moment, just might not even be relevant. So yesterday in a class, we were just discussing that there were 10,000 journal articles that were recalled because of this whole trustworthiness aspect in terms of reliability and validity, and issues with that. So there were 10,000 journal articles that were recalled. Now imagine if you actually cited one of these journal articles and there's a problem with it. So um, always look at seminal text um, and see where that information is actually coming from and whether it is reliable or not. Um, because sometimes you'll end up citing somebody from a predatory journal, and that would become problematic. Okay. Um, so going on to the next aspect of this is your obviously your data analysis, um, and this is what you need to talk about how the data will be analyzed. Are you going to get advice from a professional statistician or supervisors? Or are you going to be going into the field and who exactly you're going to be approaching? The analysis of the data, which needs to have specific statistical methodologies and tests need to be described, or if you're going to be using surveys, or why you're using that particular survey, if you're going to be doing interviews or questionnaires, who is the actual target that you're going to be approaching, why, um, and the relevance of that. Um, and even if you're using any statistical services, uh, you should identify exactly who will be doing this, how will they be doing it, and are they a reliable source or not? Okay. Um, so this is very important because sometimes a lot of the information is rigged and the data then becomes invalid. Okay. Um, all right. Going on to that, the next is ethics. So this is this has become a very very important section in all research proposals. I mean, we don't even sign off any project that is not being ethically cleared. So with ethics and the significance of your study, um, I've just put it together. You can separate this in your proposal. Even if you think that, okay, you know what, the significance of the study should actually be as part of aims on and objectives. But I think if it's separated, you are just reinforcing the idea. Okay, so you need to mention what ethical issues will be maintained. You also need to state the facts. You need to mention how what are the different ethical aspects that will be undertaken within the context of your research. Are there human participants? Even if there are no human participants, um, I know some institutions still require that you fill in an ethics application. Um, and this is what we also do with our honor students and master students here. So even if PhDs as well, so even if there are no human subjects involved, an ethical form must be completed. So in the ethics form, you need to present the rationale of your proposed study and clearly indicate why it is worth doing. How will your study contribute to the area of research? How will it contribute to filling the gap in the research? Okay. Um, and then always remember that the moment you think about engaging and approaching any human subjects, especially if they're vulnerable persons, including doing an autoethnography, uh, or if you're using animals in your research, the ethics clearance, as I said, must be done. Um, and you need to also see how this ties in with your research methods. Um, in terms of vulnerable persons, you know, even if you're working with people with disabilities or who are challenged in different ways, um, you need to always get that ethics clearance, even when you're doing autoethnography, because even though you're looking at your own personal journey in research, you obviously going to be looking at some narrative along the way. And you're going to be getting this information not just only from your own experience, but your experience is always a with another person. So when you recording this or writing the narrative, you have to maintain a level of anonymity when you're actually explaining um, or use a pseudonym when you're writing up the process, so that you protect the identity of people who you're actually speaking about in the research. Okay, so this is uh, this is a very, very important part of any research, and I do know that some institutions as well, you cannot get ethical clearance if you do not complete a course in ethics, whether it's a certificate course or um, attend a workshop or something like that in ethics. So you have to complete that to make sure that you get ethical clearance and understand the concept of ethics within the particular institution that you have registered the degree with. I'm not too sure if this is compulsory here at UJ. I'm also a new member of staff here, so I don't know everything. I'm learning. Um, so is that something that students are required to complete at PhD level? Lawrence, are you aware of anything like this? Okay.
Sorry, I was just having some connection issue. My cable had slipped
No,
out.
no.
Yeah, I didn't hear you there. So I missed you a bit on that.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, So the conclusion, because I was told that I should keep this presentation to an hour and a half and half an hour for questions. So um, the conclusion is this section that ties the entire thesis of the dissertation together. It also effectively communicates your intentions, the significance of your work, and for you to check your research answers and your research problem. From the title, your introduction, your objectives, methodologies, literature reviews, data analysis, um, and also report any shortcomings and the scope for further research. Um, that what you hope to achieve through the study. Yes, the shortcomings and the scope for the research is normally written in your main thesis. Um, Sometimes some people do state it in the proposal, or they bring the attention upfront, um, attention to it upfront, and they say these might be one of the shortcomings, and then if and so, how will they be addressed? Okay. Um, and any research process, or even the proposal writing is very, very messy. It's like untangling a ball of twine. Um, and sometimes there's all these knots that you need to weave your way through, or untie, and you need to tie and untie continuously. um, and it needs a lot of mental stamina and rigor for this. You need to be tenacious and resilient through the process, um, and never take more than 6 months to actually write up your proposal, because what this does is that it keeps you focused and engaged. Once you pass the 6 month stage, um, you get caught up with life and you don't actually complete what you need to do. So make sure that when you're writing up the proposal, you stick to your time frames. And that is also something that you're going to speak about in your chapter classification. So the outlines, or the schedule needs to be clearly stated. Make sure that you break the task into manageable phases. They always say, how do you eat an elephant? Piece by piece, right? Um, and also helps you to monitor your process and your progress through the project. So when you're embarking on your master's and PhD, it's almost like project managing yourself and the work. Um, and if you have, like, for example, all the different chapters in your master's, or your D, um, make sure that you follow the guidelines of the institution and try and stick to um, what the word count is. So some people stipulate word count, some people don't for a proposal. Um, and obviously, sometimes the proposal also becomes the first chapter of your actual thesis. So, the effort and energy that you actually put into that process is is very, very important, because it will actually, as I said, it's the GPS, it's your map to completing the thesis on time. Um, because all these things um, add to budget. So the longer you take, the more expensive it becomes. Also, look at the different financial resources, include software for data analysis, your travel, your material cost, and another big cost that is not covered by a lot of funding is editing. Or if you do apply for funding and that includes the editing, um, you know, make sure that you don't spend that money on something else, because editing is a very, very, very costly affair. So at UJ, I know that there's editing or assistance provided by the postgraduate office for the editing or the assistance, to make sure that your the reading of the proposal um, is good. And that, I think, all students need to really take advantage of, because if the document doesn't have good housekeeping, it makes it very, very difficult to read. And people tend to find flaws quickly in it, but something that is well written obviously is more engaged. um, Sometimes all the content is not there, but it's easy on the eye. So I always call that part good housekeeping. Make sure that your document, from the beginning, from the time that you actually start writing it up, the title, or the title page, or your table of contents, and all of that, do the housekeeping. Um, it will also keep you more focused. Obviously, there are times when you would actually, I call it falling off the bridge and on or hanging on from a tightrope. Um, but if you stick to good housekeeping from the beginning and sorting that document out, um, it keeps you in check, right? And you would not then. It also makes you a better writer. So at the end of the day, whether it's your master's or your PhD, you always want to get some publication out of there. And it starts making you a more acutely aware researcher and writer. Um, Writing is a very, very difficult process. I mean, you can take sometimes 2 days to write a page. Um, and the process just becomes very, very laborious. Sometimes um, you think, okay, can I do this or can I not do this? So with that housekeeping, um, it makes you more astute. Okay. Um, so yeah, make sure that there's enough funding kept aside for editing, and find a good editor that is reputable, and is going to be also a soundboard that you probably need a fresh set of eyes that would actually direct your study in conjunction or in relation to what your supervisor is saying. um, there are lots of editors there that actually do not even edit or proofread. There's and some editors who are actually go into depth and give you very, very constructive feedback. So use these opportunities. And I also believe, it costs a little bit more, but even if you can get your proposal edited in a way, um, it just makes the process go quicker. You don't want comebacks from the proposal when it goes in for to the FHA, for the Faculty of Higher Degrees, and you don't want it to come back with lots of grammatical errors and you know not a good review. So on those bases, make sure that you budget for this, uh, and keep an editor in mind who will assist you to get this done um, as quickly as possible. Um, okay. Um, so, good God, I have a. Right. So we go on to the list, the bibliography and the list of references. Um, I don't know
Just a quick
whichever.
one, Doc.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask, so what if at the stage of editing, you actually do send out your thesis or your dissertation to the editor, then they bring it back, then you submit it to your supervisor, then your supervisor says it's not still up to the standard of, let's say, the language. What do you do in that sense? Do you have to, because sometimes you do get issued a certificate of editing from the particular editor, but when you probably send it to your supervisor, then your supervisor says, no, the language extent to this paper is still not good. And how do you work around that while you probably have already paid the editor the money to edit the thesis?
Yep, that is why I'm saying that there are those editors that would just read the document without giving it any constructive feedback, and there are those editors that would, give you that constructive feedback. But in the event of now, you have this document, you've paid the editor, you're sitting with this information, and you don't know what to do because you might not be the best writer on the planet, but the content and the knowledge that you want to bring through the writing is not being expressed clearly enough. And that is why it's important to also have a soundboard as you are writing um, your work. Um, I know that Word has a function where you actually write your stuff, or it reads your work back to you, so you can listen to it and see where the errors are. Um, I should not be saying this, but um, there are lots of writing tools out there um, that can assist to make the writing more academic. Um, and always, I also believe that if you can work with a study buddy, somebody in your field, somebody, a friend. Sometimes some people have a partner that they actually read their work to and get a response from. So that's another option. And yes, when these editors send stuff to you and your supervisor says, this does not make any sense, you still need lots of work to do on this or on your writing, get to the writing center. Get to those people at the university in terms of the postgraduate officers that can actually provide that kind of assistance to you, and practice writing. um, I know when I was doing research very long time ago, I used to write at least 2 pages a day. It was very bad. But through that writing, it allowed me to channel my ideas, channel the way I write, um, and just continue using and actually attending writing workshops to make the writing better, because there is there is no quick fix to that. And yes, unfortunately, when we come across these editors who actually take the money and do nothing, and we're sitting with a problem, you have to find another editor, or go back to that editor and say, listen, this is what my supervisor said and this is not what was done, so can you please re-engage the work. It sometimes becomes an ugly process, um, and you feel like you don't want to sometimes deal with the person again. um, but unfortunately, those are some of the life lessons that we have to go through. There is no quick fix for this.
Yeah, it's true.
I know
That's true.
many people who have had that experience, and first they will say, no, these are reputable people. They give you a certificate and everything, and they probably make 10 to 15 changes. They don't even check, they charge extra for referencing or checking your referencing, but they don't even do that.
But now
So,
then, okay,
so
so now then, how do you know if um this is a reputable editor? Because obviously now some of these editors maybe might find them, or somebody might refer an editor from you for you somewhere in the outside, then you use the same editor, and then they might not edit to the extent you think the thesis would be uh, sure that it's well written in terms of the language. So now, how do you know that there's, or where do you find, is there a thingy, a website somewhere that you can find
okay,
reputable
the
editors for you?
what you can do is you can ask them, can you please provide me with information of the work that you have edited?
Oh, man.
Um, is there, because sometimes, for example, when you submit a PhD thesis, you need to put the CV of the person, you need to put the invoice of how much they've charged you, and as well as the certificate of them being registered with the guild, Editors Guild. And you can ask them for, okay, can you kindly provide us or provide me with sources of work that you have edited, so that I may be comfortable with what you are doing. And you need to make sure that you actually drop a contract with them initially. So if there's a contract to say, listen, you have edited this and you haven't done it properly, there would be no extra charge in them re-looking at the work.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
What we don't do is have that in place, and I wish there was something like this, because it would,
yeah.
save many students a lot of heartache.
Yeah, that's true. Because you'd have paid a lot of money and yeah.
Yeah, I actually know
Okay.
of lots of cases like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Doc.
No, but yeah, so if there's a contract, even if there is no contract and you've been, told by a friend, use this person and use that person, they're very good and very cheap and whatever, the first thing you need to do is say, you know what, can we please have a contract drawn up between us, in the event of me not being happy with the services that you provide. Please note that, are you able to make changes according to what my supervisor requires, so that this document is of academic standard as required by the university and institution rules. Just, that needs to be done.
Yeah, perfect. That's true.
Just the way you have a supervisor, student contract, um, you have that contract in place with the editor, because editors charge a lot of money, and it's between 12 and 20,000
Yeah,
per
they do
document.
charge a lot.
Yes, I mean, 20,000 rands is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and a lot of them charge per word, so it's a costly affair. All right, so these questions actually just pertain to the table that I showed you earlier. Um, when you're actually looking at the table, you need to look at the worldview, which informs or underpins the study. You look at the theories and the concepts, which inform the focus, the key questions, um, the theoretical and conceptual frameworks, what research they do in their study, what type of data collection, how do they analyze the data, what are the ethical issues, how do you look at trustworthiness in terms of um, validity, reliability in the study. So this, as I said, is a very, very uh, helpful table to use when you're actually working with the study or your proposal. Another thing is, judge yourself. Sometimes you are your worst enemy, sometimes you are your most critical person. But if you judge yourself and ask these questions, and always look at the rubric against what you get in mark against, because even a master's dissertation, or even a PhD dissertation, it's not just about reading and giving the feedback. I know some universities have a very, very structured rubric for marking of the dissertations or thesis. So try and get that from your supervisor, or the research office, or whoever. Um, I'm not too sure how it works at UJ currently. I'm still, as I said, working through the processes. Um, and you know, just engage this. Um, the rubric in your writing. So you're going to look at questions that you can ask yourself is, have I failed to provide a proper context to frame my research questions? Yes or no? And then answer that. I failed to delimit the boundary conditions of my research, the scope of your research. I have failed to cite landmark seminal studies. Yes or no? Um, and then if your answer to these questions are yes, then you need to state how you're going to rectify the problems. I must work on this aspect of my proposal in ABC way. you know. This is just to check whether your proposal uh, covers all the ground that it needs to, and to make sure that you don't falter along the way. Um, a lot of the master's and the PhD work is what you have to do yourself. Um, and so sometimes you don't know how to do it, ask for help. But this journey is very much on your, it's very much it's a very lonely journey, and a lot of the work you have to do by yourself. So these are good questions that you can use um, to make sure that you fall within all the parameters. You basically checking all the boxes, dotting the i's, crossing the t's, and so forth. So um, these are some of the questions. Obviously you can come up with your own, but this is just something that I think um, make sure that you have everything in place. Um, yeah, and obviously get the rubric and work with that together with us, and so that you have a sound document. Like I said, many a time the proposal is actually your chapter one, and if you have a sound proposal, then you're not going to lose signal as you're getting from point A to B. And I think that is what makes your proposal strong. Um, and remember that even with your master's and your PhD, the knowledge that you actually gain through your research, nobody else has that knowledge more than you do. You actually become, um, you know, a master in the field, and that's why I think they call it the master. So you become the master in the field until you do the PhD and realize that, okay, you know what, I can contribute in the field in a different way that hasn't been looked at before. So you know it's always a challenge. It's always uh, uh, a mindful stepping stone, because we need to be very, very careful and mindful of what we do, how we do it, and why we do it, and what we want to achieve from it. Because at the end of the day, um, you know, there's a lot riding on it. And that's why those 7, 8 questions that I asked at the beginning, what do you want to do? Because why do you want to do it? What is the goal that you want to achieve? And what is the impact of it for future? Um, so having said that, um, I'm gonna actually end here. Um, and let me know if there's any questions. And if I can get any feedbacks, we can just have a quick discussion on anything that uh, you looked that I've spoken about or I haven't spoken about, and you need clarity on. So just give a shout.
Okay. Good morning, Dr. Reshma. So this is Koketu, and I heard you speak about the ethical clearance and the fact that you have to get the certificate for that. And I just wanted to confirm that yes, I think it's the same case in all the faculties. I'm from the Faculty of Education, and the very same thing is required, that we have ethical clearance certificate, and we undergo a certain ethical clearance course for us to obtain the actual children's certificate for us to start collecting data. So even in my faculty, it's the same thing. So, and I just wanted to ask if there is, please excuse me if I had missed, maybe you spoke about this and I had missed it. Is there a specific referencing style that the FADA sticks to for all the students? A
So
standard
it
referencing style?
so it also depends on whether you choose to use APA or Harvard. Um, they doesn't for example, the FADA guide here that we have is about Um, it was done many years ago, and things have changed in referencing styles. So, there's so many different versions of Harvard. A lot of people stick to APA, not Harvard, because, as I said, there's so many different Harvard referencing styles. So many people use APA. So it just depends
Okay.
what is
Okay.
required by your department. Uh, Yeah.
Thank you.
I think there has been a request that um, the referencing guidelines get updated, but I don't know if the updating should be done by the research office or does it get done by faculty. I'm not sure. Not sure. The
Okay.
reason,
So in terms
the
of
sorry, the only reason why I said about the ethical clearance certificate is because some departments in FADA, uh, students don't have to get a clearance, do a course or a workshop on ethics to get the clearance certificate. They just apply for ethical clearance for the research.
oh, okay. Okay, understood.
Okay. There was another question.
Okay, and I
At the
wanted to
moment,
ask,
Yes,
okay,
Onika.
with regards to the template that they have to use. So I'm assuming that they can always get the template from the supervisors,
For
the template for the research proposal.
Yes. So the template for the research proposal needs you get it from the supervisors from the different departments. For example, our proposals are templates are in the learning guides that we provide to the masters and PhD students. Every department has their own structure to the proposal, like I said earlier, and it just depends what the department of faculty requirements are. um, when it's qualitative study, when quantitative study, it's slightly different. um, so that is the reason why it's department specific or faculty specific. And
Okay,
so
makes sense.
yeah, so the template is given to you by the supervisor, uh, with all the housekeeping rules in it. So like I said, we include the template in the learning guide. So I didn't actually use a template for this particular workshop because, each one is separate and I don't want to confuse anyone.
Okay,
So it
thank
just
you.
depends on what your supervisor or your department requires. For example, there's some research proposals that don't follow any of the templates. It's just a document with a few questions, um, the purpose of the study, the aim of the study. Um, it's literally 3 pages, 5 pages maximum, where some proposals are 30 pages. You know, it just depends on what's required or what the faculty or the department wants. So I didn't actually show an actual template here because um, each one is different.
thank you so much, Dr. Maharaj. Thank you so much
You're
for the
welcome.
clarification. Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
At the moment, there isn't any other questions and there is no hand raised. So I don't know if it's fine with you since there is no question, that we may end the session.
Yeah, no, sure, we can end the session.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that anybody would like to discuss or speak about, I'm available. I'll just put my email here in the
Okay.
chat.
Okay,
Um,
perfect. And apologies again for the low attendance. I think some of the students were having issues since we had the electricity and Wi-Fi issues. They had some issues with the registration as well. So I think maybe that's the reason we also had low attendance. But since we did carry on with the session, we'll ensure that we do give them the recording and all the material that was used in this workshop. And yeah, thank you so much again, Dr. Maharaj, for your efforts and preparing for this workshop. We really, really, really appreciate you here at the RCD unit.
you are most welcome. I just want to clarify something. You've been addressing me as doctor for this entire time. So just to let you know that I'm waiting graduation.
Okay, that's fine. As long as you're waiting, I think, yeah, maybe, yeah, we can just call you doctor already. So, yeah, congratulations again on your graduation.
Thank you so much. I've been teaching research methods, and yeah, it was about time that I actually embarked on the PhD and completed it. And yeah, so it's done and dusted. With, as I said, I'm just
Okay.
waiting graduation now. So it's
Okay, yeah, no, perfect. Thank you so much again, Doc. Really, really appreciate you and
you
all
are welcome.
the session here.
All right. I'd just like to send the presentation to you. I
Okay.
see there's a, as I was reading it, I picked up on a few errors. So I'll just expand on it and then I'll send it and correct it and send it to you, if that's fine.
Okay, not a problem at all, Doc. Not a problem.
All right, then take care and have a fabulous day. To all the people who are embarking on research, good luck, all the best. It's a fabulously engaging journey. Make the best of it.
Yes.
And yeah, good luck. Take care.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much and have yourself a great day. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dr. Reshma.
You're
Bye.
welcome.